Have you ever wondered why most car engines barely make it past 100,000 miles, while some last up to 500,000? The answer isn't about the car's brand or price tag, it's about how you change the oil. For years, dealers and shops have fed you advice that seems right, but actually shortens your engine's life. This video will expose 15 oil change secrets that pros often keep hidden, helping you save thousands and push your car to 600,000 miles. Like and subscribe to the channel if this video helps you. 15. The 3,000 to 5,000 or 7,000 mile cycle still saves engines. Many car makers and shops now say you can go 10,000 to 15,000 miles before an oil change, especially with full synthetic oil. It sounds reasonable and saves time and money. But from what I've seen in the shop, it's the opposite. Cars following this official advice often end up with thick, black oil sludge, scorched pistons, scratched camshafts, and lubrication systems clogged like arteries full of cholesterol. The reason? Most of us drive in severe service conditions. Daily traffic jams, constant stop and go, short trips that don't fully warm the engine, or cold weather that keeps oil from reaching optimal temperature. So, the safe rule is still 3,000 to 5,000 miles for conventional oil or 5,000 to 7,000 miles for synthetic. It costs about $60 to $80 extra per year, but it buys peace of mind and keeps you far from an $8,000 to $12,000 engine overhaul bill when it's too late. 14. Disposing of used oil. Wrong, a huge legal risk. Some people think used oil can just be poured down the drain or tossed with household trash. That's a serious mistake that could even bankrupt you. Just 1 quart of used oil can contaminate up to 250,000 gallons of groundwater. The EPA has pursued cases, forcing property owners to pay tens or hundreds of thousands for cleanup. Fines range from $2,500 to $25,000 per violation. I once saw a small shop go bankrupt after oil mixed into a stormwater system, racking up over $50,000 in cleanup costs. So, the golden rule: store used oil in a clean, sealed container. Never mix it with coolant or brake fluid, and take it to an official collection point. Most auto parts stores or service stations accept it for free. This isn't just about environmental responsibility, it's your armor against massive legal risks. 13. 6 tools to break free from shops. Many avoid changing their own oil, fearing they lack professional tools. That's the trap quick lube shops and garages use to lock you into paying $75 for a job worth $25. In reality, for under $150, you can get a full tool kit and comfortably change oil in your own garage. The basic set includes 1. A 7mm wrench, the most common size for drain plugs. 2. An oil filter removal tool, like pliers or a strap wrench for stubborn filters. 3. A wide-mouth oil drain pan, at least 6 quarts, to avoid spills. 4. Disposable nitrile gloves to keep hands clean and avoid chemicals. 5. An anti-spill oil funnel. And 6. A Jack and Jack stands for safe, easy access. One extra I highly recommend is a quick drain valve, like a Fumoto valve. Instead of unscrewing the plug, you flip a lever for clean, mess-free draining without stripping threads. This toolkit pays for itself after just 2 oil changes. More importantly, it cuts the dependency cord to shops, stops them from upselling unnecessary services, and puts you in full control of your car's care. If you learned something new today, please comment 8. 12. The right viscosity is the lifeline for VVT turbo. One of the most common mistakes I see in the shop is sticking to a familiar oil type. Owners think, my old car ran fine on 5W30, so my new one will too. But modern engines aren't like those from 20 to 30 years ago. With turbochargers, direct injection, and especially VVT, variable valve timing, oil isn't just for lubrication, it acts like hydraulic fluid to run the system. Using the wrong viscosity, too thick for tight passages or too heavy in cold weather, can cause the VVT to seize, trigger error codes, reduce power, or even damage the camshaft. I once handled a Toyota Camry case where the owner saved by using 10W40 instead of 0W20. The result? A stuck VVT system and a $4,000 repair bill. So, ignore salespeople saying, "This cheaper oil works fine." Check the oil cap or owner's manual. That's the survival standard. A slight viscosity mismatch can cost your engine its lifespan. 11. Expensive and unnecessary flush packages. Have you ever gone for an oil change and been pitched an extra $400 for a fuel system flush, engine flush, or transmission flush? Service advisors often create a sense of urgency. Your brake fluid is dirty, the injectors need cleaning, or the throttle body is clogged. In many internal training sessions, staff are coached to push these packages to meet sales quotas. But the truth is, these services are rarely needed at 30,000 or 50,000 miles. For example, a fuel system flush only makes sense if the car is shaking, idling rough, or failing emissions tests. An engine flush can even cause harm. Strong chemicals loosen large chunks of sludge, which can flow into oil passages, clog filters, and starve the engine of oil pressure. I once saw a customer bring in a pristine 500-mile Corolla, yet they were still upsold a throttle cleaning. Bottom line, stick to regular oil and filter changes, and only clean systems when there are real symptoms, not because someone's padding the bill. Don't let upsell tactics drain thousands from your wallet for no reason. 10. Store your car for winter, change the oil first. Some think, if the car's not driven, the oil stays fine. Change it in spring. That mistake has led me to crack open plenty of engines ruined after just one winter. Used oil is full of acids from combustion. Sulfur turns into sulfuric acid, and nitrous turns into nitric acid, plus moisture builds up in the engine. When the car sits idle for months, these compounds don't burn off. They keep corroding piston rings, camshafts, and cylinder walls. I've seen an engine left with old oil over winter with pitted, rusted rings, needing a $5,000 rebuild. Changing oil before storage costs little, $40 to $80, depending on the type. In return, you get fresh, clean oil that neutralizes acids and protects metal surfaces during the hibernation. Come spring, the car starts smoothly, with no clunking or oil pressure warning lights. This is one of the simplest yet most effective secrets to push your engine's life well beyond 200,000 miles. 9. Short trips. Age, oil faster than highway driving. Many owners brag, "I only drive around town, a few thousand miles a year. My engine's practically new." But the truth is the opposite. Short trips under 10 miles are oil's worst enemy. Why? The oil never reaches its ideal operating temperature of 195, 220 degrees Celsius to burn off water vapor and excess fuel. As a result, unburned gas slips past the cylinders, dilutes the oil in the crankcase, and mixes with combustion moisture. This turns the oil into a watery sludge that loses its lubricating power. I once checked a 20,000-mile Honda Civic used only for short trips, and the oil was black, thin, and reeked of gas, worse than an 80,000-mile taxi driven long distances. Meanwhile, highway-driven cars stay cleaner because the oil gets hot enough to evaporate water and contaminants. So, if you mostly drive in the city, shorten your oil change interval to 3,000–5,000 miles, and don't fully trust the oil life monitor on your dashboard. That's how you protect your engine from this sneaky, harsh condition. Comment 1 and like this video, and I'll reveal something even better. 8. Change oil when warm to drain, 80–95%. Another common mistake is changing oil when the engine is cold. Owners think cold is safer, no burned hands, but cold oil is thick like molasses, clinging to the crankcase, oil passages, and filter. As a result, you only drain about 70–80% of it, leaving behind acids, metal shavings, and carbon sludge that mix with the new oil as soon as you start the engine. In the shop, I've measured actual oil output. A 5-quart engine drained cold yielded only 4.1 quarts, meaning nearly a quart of toxic waste stayed behind. In contrast, running the engine for 5 to 10 minutes until the oil reaches operating temperature makes it thinner, flowing faster, and carrying most of the gunk out. You can then drain 4.8 to 5 quarts, nearly a complete cleanout. Of course, be cautious. Wear gloves, let the car cool for 2 to 3 minutes after shutting off to reduce heat, and then proceed. This small habit change ensures the new oil stays truly clean and maximizes engine protection. 7. Cheap oil filters wreck engines due to poor bypass anti-drain back. Many think an oil filter is just a cheap part and any brand will do. But the difference between a quality filter and a bargain, one can determine your engine's lifespan. Cheap filters often use thin paper with fewer pleats and a smaller surface area, so they clog quickly. Their bypass valve, designed to open under high pressure, is often low quality and opens too soon. The result? Unfiltered oil flows straight to the engine, carrying metal shavings and debris, wearing down rings, cams, and cylinders. Worse, many cheap filters lack a proper anti-drainback valve, which keeps oil from draining back into the crankcase when the engine's off, ensuring lubrication in the critical first seconds of startup. Without it, every start is a dry start for a few seconds, the most damaging phase for wear. I once opened an SUV's engine at 60,000 miles that used only ultra-cheap filters. The cams were heavily scratched and the rings were loose. Meanwhile, trusted brands like MAN, Wix, K&N, or Mobil 1 cost just $8, $10 more, but protect an engine worth thousands. The lesson? Don't save stupidly. A few bucks, the price of a coffee, can save you from a $3,000, $5,000 repair bill. 6. Tighten the drain. Plug right. Hand tight plus 1/4, 1/2 turn. In the shop, I've seen countless engines fail just because the drain plug was tightened wrong. Many people, fearing leaks, grab a long wrench and crank it hard into the fragile aluminum oil pan. The result? Stripped threads, a cracked pan, and a $2,000 bill to replace the entire pan. In some cases, the plug pops out while driving, dumping all the oil on the highway, and the engine seizes with a clatter in minutes. The proper technique is simple. Hand tighten the plug until the washer touches the pan, then add just 1/4 to 1/2 turn with a wrench. The washer creates the seal, not excessive force. If you have a torque wrench, most manufacturers recommend just 25-30 FTLBs, far less than the crank it with all you've got habit. Another tip, always use a new washer with each oil change. This small detail can save you from losing an entire engine due to a few seconds of carelessness. 5. Overfilling oil. Foaming leads to starvation. It sounds counterintuitive, but adding extra oil doesn't protect the engine. It kills it faster. When oil exceeds the max mark on the dipstick, the crankshaft churns it, creating foam. Foamy oil is full of air bubbles, and when the pump sucks it up, the oil pressure gauge looks normal, but metal surfaces lose their lubricating film. This is a dangerous scenario. Worn bearings, scratched cylinders, oil-soaked spark plugs, and blue exhaust smoke. I once opened a 40,000-mile Ford F-150, where the owner routinely added half a quart for safety. The result? Oil splashed into the intercooler, gunked up the turbo, and required a full engine overhaul. Remember, enough is enough. When changing oil, pour slowly, checking the dipstick after a few minutes to let the level settle. Don't blindly dump in the full amount listed in the manual. New filters, parking angles, and ambient temperature can slightly shift the actual volume needed. A half-quart overfill can be the line between an engine lasting 500,000 miles or dying at 150,000. 4. Oil life monitor. Is just an estimate? It can lie. Modern cars often have an oil life monitor, showing 30% or 40% remaining, reassuring owners the oil is still good. But here's the truth. This system doesn't measure the oil's actual quality. It relies on an algorithm tracking engine revolutions, temperature, driving habits, and start cycles. It can't detect if oil is diluted by leaking fuel injectors or contaminated with water from frequent short trips. I sent oil samples to Blackstone Labs, and they showed oil full of fuel and metal particles, while the Oil Life Monitor still read 50% fine. This creates a false sense of security, leading owners to stretch oil changes too long, causing sludge, clogged passages, and engine damage. Don't fully trust the dashboard number. Check the dipstick monthly. If the oil is thin, smells like gas, or looks discolored, change it immediately. For city-driven cars with lots of stop and go, stick to a shorter 5,000, 7,000 mile cycle, no matter what the monitor says. The computer only predicts. Your real-world judgment is what counts. 3. Prime oil pressure for 30 seconds after a change. This is a secret 99% of owners miss, but veteran mechanics treat it like gospel. After an oil change, the engine's lubrication system is nearly empty. The oil pump is full of air, passages are dry, and bearings and cams have only a thin film of oil. If you start the engine right away, metal parts grind together naked for the first 5-10 seconds, causing more wear than thousands of miles of highway driving. The fix is dead simple. Disable the fuel pump or ignition. Pull the fuel pump fuse, relay, or coil. Then crank the engine for 10 to 15 seconds to let the pump fill and push oil to every corner. You'll notice the oil pressure light stays on longer than usual. That's the sign the system is priming. It takes just 30 seconds, but it extends your engine's life by hundreds of thousands of miles. Many pro shops make this mandatory, while most owners skip it. If you want your car to live long to 500,000 miles, make priming a habit after every oil change. It's cheaper than any additive. 2. Warning signs after an oil change. Act immediately. Many owners think that once the oil is changed, they can drive worry-free, but in reality, this is the most vulnerable time for issues to pop up. A strange, ticking noise right after starting could signal low oil pressure from a misinstalled filter or underfilling. A small drip under the car the next morning can quickly turn into a dry engine on the highway. I once saw a customer return from a quick lube shop, and just a few miles later, the drain plug popped out. The over-tightening from before had stripped the threads, leading to a seized engine and an $8,000 repair bill. Be on high alert for these 3 red flags after an oil change. Strange noises, knocking or rattling sounds appearing right after startup. Warning lights, especially the oil pressure light, never drive with it on. Leaks. Check under the car, around the filter, and the drain plug after a few hours or overnight. If you spot any of these, don't try to limp along, shut off the engine and tow it to a shop for inspection. Ignoring a small problem can lead to total engine failure in minutes. 1. Used oil analysis, UOA, before extending intervals. Many people blindly trust ads. Premium synthetic oil lasts 10,000, 15,000 miles. But the truth is, no one, not even the car maker, can guarantee your oil is still good without real lab testing. That's why engineers recommend UOA, or used oil analysis. For just $25-30, you take a sample of your used oil and send it to a lab like Blackstone. The results reveal wear metals, iron, copper, aluminum, fuel dilution, water or coolant contamination, and additive package status. I once saw oil with 40% life left on the monitor, but the UOA showed severe fuel dilution and barely any protection left. Conversely, some dark, thick-looking oil tested fine. Only UOA gives you real data to decide if you can safely extend your change interval. It's the only step that turns gut feel into hard evidence. If you want to optimize costs without risking your engine's life, do periodic UOA, especially with synthetics and highway driving. An engine can die young at 100,000 miles, or thrive to 600,000 based on a few small post-change steps. Priming oil pressure for 30 seconds avoids dry start wear. Watching for odd noises, lights, or leaks prevents $1,000 disasters, and UOA gives you facts over ads or oil life monitors. These seemingly minor habits are the secret to saving tens of thousands and extending your engine's life far beyond expectations.